Hi, it's Scott Zimmerman. Before I jump in to help you with your understanding the degree of openness or lack thereof with other people, I wanted to let you know that one of the main reasons I chose to go so deeply in the concept of the platinum rule of treating people the way they wish to be treated was because I learned how to do this and greatly increased my sales, but I also noticed that it carried over immediately to all my personal relationships. I became a much better husband for my wife, a much better leader for my employees, and I would like to believe I became a much better friend for the people who care about me. That being said, I will be closing this section when I start helping you with your workbook exercises by sharing with you some of my personal relationships of someone I know who's very open and someone I know personally who's very guarded. But since I know the primary use of what you wanted this for was for sales, let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to drill down a little deeper to make sure you really can recognize if someone's being more open at a given point in time, or maybe they switch to a more guarded mode depending on what you're talking about. So this whole thing of openness versus guardedness is someone's willingness and readiness to share their innermost feelings and thoughts. Some people, any subject, anywhere, anytime, they'll talk about politics, religions, or feelings. It really doesn't matter. They're very comfortable just talking about what's going on inside of them. Whereas some other people are just more guarded. Whatever they tend to be thinking and feeling tends to stay on the inside. Now, let me preface this by saying one isn't better than the other. It's just like being right-handed or left-handed. There's no judgment here. It just has to do how easily somebody will talk about personal things. So your open people are real easy to read. They're easy to get to know. Whatever they're thinking and feeling on the inside, it tends to just pop right out. The primary focus is on relationships and people. Business, facts, and data tend to come secondarily. And if meetings go over, they don't seem to care because they're usually the reason why, because they tend to like to talk a lot. On the other hand, some people are more guarded than open, and their primary focus isn't feelings and relationships. It is data, facts, projects, tasks. In meetings, they like them to end early or right on time. They don't like you wasting their time, and they are harder to read, especially in business meetings, and they're harder to get to know, especially in new social situations. When they're making decisions, open people tend to look for how does this feel. They go to their gut. As opposed to guarded people, it's a very unemotional decision. They are looking for the facts, the data, the return on investment, reduction of risk, all of the things that require evidence. Their primary focus for open people is on opinions and feelings and ideas, whereas guarded people, it's all no-nonsense, facts and data and tasks. When they're speaking, open people tend to bounce from topic to topic, and usually they don't tell you they're about to bounce to another topic. As opposed to guarded people, boy, once they start talking about one thing, when they're done talking about it, they're done talking. When you first meet them, the open people are more relaxed and warm. You walk in their office, they stand up, they come over, they shake your hand, they give you a smile, they ask you to sit down. Sometimes they sit right next to you. Whereas a more guarded person will give you a firm handshake, usually from across the desk, and they will sit across the desk because they like their space, and they will be a much more formal and proper demeanor about them. You want to give them projects, you want to give them work, you want them to be productive, put the open people in groups. They love to talk, share ideas, bounce things off others, whereas your guarded person is in their office, door closed, knocking out work like nobody's business. When they're speaking, open people, very animated facial expressions, very poker-faced for the guarded people. When you're speaking, an open person will give you a lot of nonverbal feedback. They'll smile and they'll nod along with you, or if you're sharing something a little bit sad, they'll tend to knit their eyebrow and frown with you because you can tell they feel what you're feeling. You don't get much verbal or nonverbal feedback at all from a guarded person, so a lot of times you don't know where you stand with them. When you're talking to someone who's open, they'd love to hear about your dreams and your ideas and your visions because they want to tell you theirs as well. But when you're speaking with a guarded person, they just want facts and data and real things, tangible things. So based on that descriptor that I just gave you, most times in most situations, would you say you're more open than guarded or more guarded than open? Again, one isn't any better or different. They're just different. Now, one's not better, one's not worse. Now, I want to help you with get jump started on your workbook exercise because if you're doing this by yourself, sometimes you can get a little bit stuck, and I understand that. So I'm going to share with you two examples, one open person that I know and one guarded person that I know, along with the characteristics that lets me know that they're being open or guarded most times, and then also what helps the relationship and what could hinder it. So let's start off with one of the most open people I know, which is my wife. And the characteristics to let me know that she's open, well, she is a great listener. She never interrupts. She's very cooperative, and she's very empathetic. Whatever you're feeling, she's feeling. And she is a natural hugger. Very contact-oriented. When I'm speaking, I get a lot of nonverbal feedback, so I can tell that she's picking up what I'm putting down. She likes to argue things more emotionally, not really logically, and I've learned that about her, and I'm okay with that. But her primary focus is more emotion than logic. When we're speaking, I just kind of let her go. It's going to be a free-range chicken. She's going to go from topic to topic. She's not going to segue, so I have to try to figure out, though she's talking about something new, and she and I joke about this all the time. But on the upside, I have learned to appreciate our differences, and I do love the fact that she's warm with everybody, and she has great intuition. Her intuition has kept me out of a couple really poor business decisions because she could read other people, and she could sense that it was going to go south. Now, what helps the relationship? Well, now I know how she makes decisions. So I'll tend to lay little breadcrumbs now, give her time to warm up to maybe us needing a new car or any other large purchase. I just don't come right out and suggest we do it. I just let her warm up to things. I know that when we go down to our club, if there's some other people we've never met before and there's 2 seats open next to them, I'll put my wife next to that couple or that other group, knowing that she'll just warm them right up. I don't have to do that. And I'll guarantee you by the time that they're done having their conversation, and I get pulled into it too, of course, but by the time my wife's done with them, when they get up to leave, there is hugging going on, and she has made new friends very quickly. What also helps is that sometimes if we have something we need to discuss, not really argue, but discuss, I'll know that she just wants to maybe vent or let something out emotionally at first. When she's done, then I go to the logic side and ask her that she wants some help solving the problem or improving the situation. Now, what could hinder the relationship? Well, before I learned the platinum rule and how to adapt to other people, I would argue with her logically, and the more logical I would be, the more emotional she would be, and it didn't end very well. Sometimes I would, quote, win the argument, but feel terrible afterwards, and now I can avoid all of that stress and interpersonal tension, and certainly I feel better not ever putting her through any of that. In hindsight, before I learned to do this, I didn't take into account her feelings. That certainly hindered our relationship. Now, I tend, as most people do, depending on what we're doing or what's required, I will easily flip-flop between both open and guarded. So, for example, I like to cook. And when I'm in the kitchen, I'm in a very focused, direct mode because I'm trying to get 3 different things done at the same time, and I got to focus on what I'm doing, and I've only been doing it for about 7 years. And so at that time, I'm not the least bit open. I don't want to chit-chat. I don't want to be interrupted. I just need to focus on getting this meal out. So before I do something like that, I will then ask my wife, and I'll say, honey, I'm going to go cook us dinner. It's going to take about 2 hours. And you know that I like to be in the kitchen by myself. So if you need to do anything in there now, just go ahead and do it. Let me know when you're done, and I'll get started. And then we avoid me ever being a little bit testy when I'm in there and I got 3 things boiling and I got something in the microwave and another thing in the oven, and I'm trying to focus on everything at once. Now, the guarded person I would like to talk about is my stepdad, and he's been in my life since I was 3 years old, so he's really like a second dad. I don't even consider him a step anything. He's just another dad. I got lucky. I got 2. And the characteristics, well, when he was working, he was an industrial engineer and a plant manager. So he was really like an analytical thinking kind of guy. And every time I would speak with him and ask him to help me solve something or fix a toy or do something, he was extremely logical. He was always very guarded with any display of his emotion with my mom or myself or my sister. Not a big hugger. He never really told us he loved us very much. But he showed how much he loved us through the service that he gave us. He just never talked about it a whole lot. He just fixed everything, took care of the finances, took care of the house, took care of the cars, took care of the yard. And of course, well, half that ended when I turned 12 and started taking care of some of the stuff with him. He'd come home from work and he was real poker faced. You couldn't tell if he had a good day or a bad day. But I will say that he still is great at making big decisions. He's very unemotional. He'll Ben Franklin everything, pros and cons. He'll shop through consumer reports. He'll find the best deal. And I really admire those sorts of things about Dad. What helps the relationship is just knowing that he loves me. He may not say it a lot, but I'm okay with that. I've learned that he's just guarded, and he still feels everything we all feel. He's just not going to be the guy crying at the same movie. That's probably me. And so I get it. So he still feels everything we feel. Guarded people do. They just don't let it out as easily. And because he's read at least one of my books and he's come to a couple speeches, he's pretty good at understanding the 4 styles. And he knows that I'm way up in the upper right corner most times, where in my high I mode, I'm joker and a prankster and a funny guy. And he's way down in the lower left-hand corner because he's very logical and analytical, and so he's like a non-toucher. So every time I leave after visiting my parents, I'll walk over to him like I'm going to shake his hand, then I'll lean in like I'm going to give him a giant bro hug and plant a kiss on his cheek, and he'll lean back so far it almost looks like a limbo dancer, and then we both have a little chuckle, and out the door I go. What would hinder a relationship with someone who's very guarded? At first, I misinterpreted, that because he didn't say a whole lot or show a whole lot of emotion, I didn't think that he loved me. It turned out that he cared a great deal about me and my family, and he showed it again through the service that he gave us. When I was younger, I used to argue everything I wanted very passionately and emotionally, and I was very persuasive and convincing. Good classical salesman, the gift of gab. That didn't carry any weight with him. He would just come back at me calmly and logically, and I'm sure he didn't like it, and I know I didn't like it. But fortunately, since I've learned how to adapt, when I want to get him to see my point of view on something, I prepare when I go in. And I do use a lot of logic, and I do ask a lot of questions to involve him in the answers. So here's a good sales tip. When you open a conversation with someone, especially if it's somebody you don't know, try to come up with an open-ended question that will force them to steer the conversation to either a personal topic or a business-related topic. Let me give you an example. Okay, so since I sell professional marketing services like the invisible, graphic design and copywriting and consulting and things of that nature, when someone first contacts me, I always ask them a question. So what have you heard about me or heard about my company? And, oh, I got that in there twice. I'm not re-recording all this for one mistake. So stay with me, cut me a little slack. So sometimes I might get a response like, I heard you're a great guy to be around. I just wanted to get to know you. I'm glad you stopped in today. I know that person's very open. They want to get to know me as a person a little bit before we turn our attention to business. Conversely, I may hear something very direct and business related like, we want to improve the ROI that we've been getting on our digital marketing, and we heard that you have proprietary software or something, and they focus right on the business at hand. There's no chit-chat. And right then I know they don't want to get to know me as a person, they don't need to get to know me as a person, and it's irrelevant. Back in my early sales career, I tried to warm people up, and in hindsight, that was a huge mistake. I caused a lot of interpersonal tension for other people that did not need to be there because I just always thought people like to get to know other people before they did business. That is not the case. So in closing, I'm going to walk my own talk and ask you if you ever need any one-on-one coaching or help with a specific person. I am available for one-on-one coaching. If you'd like a DISC assessment and report, I can take care of that for you as well. So thank you for your time and attention, and good luck and great selling.